I thought to myself, what if I could deliver the Temple of Heaven magnificent design, Imperial Feng Shui significance, and centuries of cultural history to Imperial Harvest? Hello blessed viewers, welcome back to Imperial Harvest. This is Master David here, 3rd generation Imperial Feng Shui Master of Imperial Harvest. About a month ago, I spoke about the onset of winter and how it is associated with the major yin in Imperial Feng Shui and one's personal luck. In much of the Northern Hemisphere, winter is now well underway. In fact, we are fast approaching the midpoint or peak of winter. This marks the date with the shortest daylight in the entire year and when the sun hangs the lowest on the horizon. But it is much more than that. In fact, many traditions around the world attach great meaning to this defining moment in winter, known as the Winter Solstice. Now, what is this Winter Solstice all about? Well, if you live in a tropical climate with perennially sunny days, as I do, this may seem a little foreign and strange, but I've always found it fascinating that the Winter Solstice actually bears much cultural and even religious significance in different parts of the world, across diverse cultures from Western civilizations to the Far East. The Winter Solstice is a highly revered occasion that carries much importance in society. When we looked at ancient civilization in China dynastic history, for example, it is evident that the Winter Solstice was a cherished annual event that deeply impacted and influenced long-standing traditions. I think the grandest and most striking commemoration of the Winter Solstice would be the Imperial Court's special auspicious prayers and offerings. Now, these rites were conscientiously upheld by generations of emperors and court officials. They were performed with utmost reverence by the emperor in his capacity as the Son of Heaven. In fact, as one of what was known as the great affairs of the state, the Winter Solstice rites formed one of the foremost defining events in the imperial calendar. How did the Winter Solstice imperial rites come to take on such great importance? Well, throughout Chinese dynastic history, the agrarian lifestyle has been central to everyday life. Crop yield and its market value were hugely important determinators of social and economic success. Naturally, every bountiful harvest called for the emperor to worship and give thanks to the heavens, the omniscient, omnipotent, and everlasting force that oversaw and regulated all aspects of life and society. These prayerful tributes to the heavens were performed at none other than the legendary Temple of Heaven, Tiantan, in Beijing. So, the Temple of Heaven, epicenter of the sacred Imperial Winter Solstice rites. It is no ordinary temple. Completed 600 years ago during the Ming Dynasty, it has been for generations of emperors the foremost site of heavenly worship and thanksgiving. Till today, the immense spiritual and cultural legacy of the Temple of Heaven buttresses its status as the home of Imperial Feng Shui. Back in 2019, I had the privilege of paying a visit to the Temple of Heaven, and I witnessed for myself the magnitude and grandeur of this monumental Chinese architectural wonder. I thought to myself, what if I could deliver the Temple of Heaven magnificent design, Imperial Feng Shui significance, and centuries of cultural history to Imperial Harvest? Well, daunting as it was, I was determined to find a way to achieve this vision. Over the next few months, I sought the expert opinion of historians and pored over conceptualization of a brand new Imperial Harvest collection. I'm proud that this once distant dream sparked by a spontaneous visit to Beijing and born on the grounds of the famous Temple of Heaven is now a flourishing reality. Today, the very essence of Temple of Heaven is distilled into the Bliss of Harvest collection, empowering countless blessed clients in their personal and professional pursuits. The Bliss of Harvest collection consists of a series of exquisitely designed rings, conceptualized and created by our bold vision for contemporary Imperial Feng Shui. Here, I have with me the 3rd generation Bliss of Harvest collections, 5 unique ring designs, each inspired by the architectural and cultural grandeur of the Temple of Heaven itself. The jewel in the crown of the Bliss of Harvest collection is what I would call the sister treasure of fine jadeite pendants, the Imperial Harvest fine jadeite cabochon. From what I've shared last month, At the start of winter, you will recall that the jadeite pendant govern and promote one's personal luck. On the other hand, according to the tenets of Imperial Feng Shui, these fine jadeite cabochons you see here bestow upon the blessed wearer a heightened intuitive awareness. Intuition is critical in decision-making process, especially in high-stakes situations, which are accompanied by ambiguity and a lack of information. Possessing good intuition empowers us to accurately perceive what others don't and confidently make decisions of limited data and seize first-mover advantages. The season of winter is synonymous with harsh weather, a lack of sunlight, even reduced availability of water, and other factors incompatible with crop growth. With these barren conditions, even heavily agricultural societies such as China dynastic history had to yield to this weather, seasonally putting aside sowing and harvesting of crops. Instead, this period of the year was when many took some time off to reflect on the harvest season and crop yield. It was also common to take stock of the prevailing crop demand patterns and plan ahead for the year to optimize their resources. Such a preparatory phase was when these agriculturalists were able to step away from the relentless hustle of farming work and review their strategies on growing the most lucrative crops for the following year. Interestingly, even in our modern and digital-driven lives of today, the year-end period is also when many of us get to savor a slight reprieve from our busy schedules and relentless tasks. As work tapers off for many, we tend to experience a waning of pace and intensity of the daily grind. Just as it was in ancient Chinese agricultural societies, life tends to slow a little, allowing us to recharge our mind, body, and soul for another prosperous year ahead of us. It is during this period that many Imperial Harvest clients come in for annual reviews to seek advice on new Imperial Feng Shui treasures, or just to catch up with their dedicated consultant. Given the centrality of the Winter Solstice to Imperial Feng Shui, a good number of clients pay tribute to this iconic emblematic season with the Bliss of Harvest collection. The first ring of the collections bears a striking of matte and mirror finishes. It subtly represents and references the harmonious coexistence of yin and yang, the two complementary forces which together makes up Taiji, the combined essence of heaven and earth, sighted equidistant from one another. For handcrafted screws steadfastly secure the ring components and bind them firmly as a functional whole. As physical pillars of support for the ring, they allude to the role of the four innermost pillars of the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest. This venerated hall was where generations of emperors retreated to during their most heartfelt and intimate prayers to the heaven, forming the focal point of Imperial Winter Solstice rituals. In contrast to the much more subtle outlook of the first ring, this one here is immediately more visually arresting at first glance. The centerpiece is the diamond-studded inner band that catches the eye and teases the imagination. When I designed this ring, I wanted to create a treasure that would inspire its blessed wearer to ever greater achievements on the horizon. As you can see, the infinite sparkle of the design elements shines through most brilliantly, signifying to the blessed wearer a brightly shining future of hope and promise. The next ring that I'd like to introduce will be this one, the one that features three very distinctive tiers, each accentuated with a gleaming hand-burnished mirror finish. Here, the sacred Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest is represented by 8 round brilliant cut diamonds, which form 4 pillars representing the Hall of Prayer's 4 innermost pillars. Just like in the previous 2 rings, the essence of the 4 innermost pillars frames the ring's circumference, supporting it both physically and metaphorically. The 4th ring in this Bliss of Harvest collection is one of my favorites, with the richness of details and symbolic shapes woven into its eye-catching design. The yin and yang matte and mirror finish featured in the first ring appears here as well, along with a distinctive geometric design that is highly reminiscent of the perfectly circular Hall of Prayer, standing in a square yard. Now, these two shapes were certainly not chosen at random when the Temple of Heaven complex was constructed. Based on the tenets of Imperial Feng Shui, heaven is associated with circular shape, while earth connotations are expressed through the use of squares. Through this ring, I wanted to highlight the interconnectedness of heaven and earth, with both inextricable from each other in the universe of Taiji, the combined essence of heaven and earth. The final Bliss of Harvest ring shifts slightly away from the more striking designs of the other four. A quick glance immediately reveals its understated yet quietly alluring traits. Complementing its unique matte finish is a minimalist and abstract tri-band design that is structurally and aesthetically robust. The eye-catching perspectives were specifically designed to mesh and weld into one another, forming a tapestry of dynamism. The bow-swapping design of this ring makes it well-suited for the confident and discerning, and arms them with a restrained sense of power. When you acquire a Bliss of Harvest treasure, you don't just walk into our galleries and select a design that catches your fancy. It is much more than that. Imbued in each treasure is the rich heritage of the Winter Solstice rites, upheld for generations in the Imperial Chinese court. Each time you slip on the ring, you adorn yourself with the cultural and spiritual traditions that have shaped and defined one of the world's oldest civilizations. Each fine jadeite capuchon, the heartbeat of the Bliss of Harvest, is carefully harvested from the center of jadeite boulders, where Imperial Feng Shui energies are the densest and most intense. They are then meticulously carved and finished by hand to accentuate their innate brilliance. This is where our master artisans really shine and come into their element, tapping on the vast wealth of skills acquired from the generations before them. Analogous to this, I think the capuchon's place as the showpiece of the Bliss of Harvest really underscores the centrality of Imperial Feng Shui principles to everything we strive for here at Imperial Harvest. As you reflect and recharge this winter season, the Imperial Harvest Bliss of Harvest collection stands out as a timeless tribute to the Winter Solstice rites of Chinese dynastic history. So, do drop by anytime to discuss how your desired Bliss of Harvest treasure can enhance your intuition and empower you to achieve your goals and aspirations. Our expert consultants are always ready to help.